Hello friends, I am back over here with the topic Narcotic, Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985. This is the second lecture of this topic, and in the last I have just given you the brief over narcotic drugs, psychotropic substances, controlled delivery, and the detail of the act, like the history, that how and what were the need to develop, then the objectives and some of the terminologies that we are using in this act, that we are going to use these in this act. So in this second lecture of narcotic, drug and psychotropic substances, I would be dealing in detail with Narcotic Control Bureau. That is the organization which controls this Narcotic and Psychotropic Substances Act. The authorities and officers who are responsible, that we have talked about in controlled delivery, that was the main authorized person under whose presence we can prepare or we can do any kind of operations under narcotic drugs. So the main authorities and the officers which are appointed by the government for the rules and regulations of these acts. So I would be dealing with these. And the third point, that is the National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse. We have talked about drugs and its effects. So we have to talk about the control of drug abuse, that if a person is using drug and it is causing an abuse for that person, then how to control over it. So in the second lectures, I would be dealing with these three important points related to narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. So let's go through it one by one. We start with controlled operations. Here we will talk about with respect to central government and state government, because when we talk about the controlled operation, then there are certain operations which are controlled by central government and certain operations which are controlled by state government. So here we will see that what are the points that are controlled by central government. So the first one is cultivation, gathering of any portion of coca plant, that is the coca plants, and its control is by central government. Cultivation of opium poppy and its behalf, that we are talking about any of the product that is made up from opium poppy, or you can say opium, then it is also controlled by central government. Production, manufacture of opium and poppy straw, that is, if we are talking about opium, then its manufacture and production. We are talking about these two terms, that is production and manufacture is controlled by central government of opium. Third point, the sale of opium and opium derivatives to state government, manufacturing, chemists, as well as their export. So ultimately we can see that the procedure, or you can say the entire operation of opium, is under central government, as well as the cultivation and gathering of coca plant is under central government. So the two plants whose control is with central government is coca plant and opium plant. And if we talk about the operations, then only the cultivation and gathering of coca is handled by central government, whereas on the other hand, the entire procedure from cultivation to the export of opium is handled by central government. So these are the two plants which are controlled by central government. Now let's see about state government. What are the controls with state government? Here comes the cannabis, the cultivation of cannabis, and now we will see the transport, warehousing, purchase, sales and consumption of opium, poppy straw, cannabis and coca are with state government also. So here we have seen the controlled operation with respect to central as well as state government, in which the point to be remembered is that the central government controls coca and opium and state government controls cannabis plant. Now coming to the next point, that is Narcotic Control Bureau, that is NCB. The short form of Narcotic Control Bureau is NCB. NCB was established on 17th March 1986 to enable the full implementation of NDPS Act 1985. So, the main objective to build this organization was to control narcotic and psychotropic substances, to the use of that. So, NCB was established on 17th March 1986 to enable the full implementation of NDPS Act 1985. So, first the act was developed in 1985 and then the organization was brought forward to control over it in 1986. That is the year, how to learn that year, that is 1985, and after 1 year the organization came into force to control over it. The headquarters of NCB is in Delhi. It is the chief law enforcement and intelligence agency of India. So, it is one of the intelligence department of India, and the head is Director General. It is totally controlled or totally under the control of Director General of India. So, with these four major important points over NCB, I would like to have a bit revision over it. That NCB is Narcotic Control Bureau, which was established on 17th March 1986. That is the year after the act came into force, that was 1985. Its headquarters is in Delhi and the head is the Director General of India. It is under the shoulders of Director General of India. It is the chief law enforcement and intelligence agency of India. It is one of the intelligence agency of India, that is IB department. If we talk about intelligence bureau, it is one of the department under IB, that is Intelligence Bureau. So, this is a bit detail of Narcotic Control Bureau. Now, let's see the other authorities and officers which control over narcotic, drug and psychotropic substances. So, here let us start with measures taken by central government for preventing and combating abuse of narcotic drugs. So, what are the measures taken by central government to control, to combating, to decrease the abuse of these narcotic drugs? So, first one is the coordination of two people, and here the two people are central government and state government. Actions by various officers, state government and the other authorities under this act. There should be a proper coordination, because when we are talking about smuggling, तो ये कब होता है? Like while we are transporting drug from one place to the other, we have seen that the substance has been destroyed and the major portion has been smuggled. So, there should be a coordination between the two people while doing the operation with respect to narcotic drugs. So, the coordination of action is the first one. Now, coming to the second point, we have obligations under the international conventions. International conventions, I have talked about this word in the last lecture, international conventions, that these are some of the important laws that has been developed by group of countries, and if it is followed internationally, or you can say many countries are using those laws, and if it is implemented or applicable for our country, then we have to follow that international convention, or you can say that international law. So, obligations under international conventions, that if there are some laws internationally, then we also have to apply it to our country also. Now, coming to the third point, it is the assistance to the concerned authorities for prevention and suppression of illicit trafficking in NDPS. Again, we have used the word illicit trafficking. So, I suppose it is clear now after seeing my first lecture that what is illicit traffic. So, let us have a brief, that is controlled operations of narcotic drugs, and those operations include the cultivation, collection, possessing, sale, purchase, transport, store, warehousing, anything with respect to these narcotic drugs comes under the operations of the narcotic drugs. So, illicit traffic means that is there is some or the other problem in these operations somewhere or the other, and it causes illicit traffic. The fourth point is the treatment, education, rehabilitation and social reinteractions of addicts. That is, the drug abuse, after the drug abuse, we have to control those people to have a good life. So that is the rehabilitation and social interactions of addicts, so that they can improve the state of mind under which they are going through after taking or after being an addict of those narcotic drugs. So here we have seen that the measures taken by central government for preventing and combating abuse of narcotic drugs. Their first one, there should be a coordination. Second one, obligation with international conventions. Third point, control of illicit drug trafficking. And fourth point, treatment of drug addicts. So after this, let's go through the other officers of central government. Authorities and officers, we have seen officers of central government includes the appoints narcotic commissioner and other officers as it think. It is a temporary post of as and when required. That if there is a requirement for narcotic commissioner, then the person from the government is being appointed as narcotic commissioner, and the officers as it think that if there is a requirement, the well educated people who are working already in the government of India are being temporarily appointed as narcotic commissioners or narcotic officers. And what are the major functions of them? The major functions include the supervisions of cultivation of opium poppy and the production of opium, because here we are talking about central government. So the point to be noted that we are talking about of cultivation of opium only. So the functions are the supervision of cultivation of opium poppy and production of opium is controlled by NCB, or you can say the central government, and the narcotic commissioner is the person or the temporary post which is applied or fulfilled as and when required in the department. Now here comes the NDPS committee. When we are talking about narcotic drugs and some matter has been there, so there is a build-up of NDPS committee. NDPS, that is narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances, and consultative committee. This is the consultative committee which is temporarily build-up for that concern, to resolve some certain concern. So this committee consists of a chairman. If there is a committee, then one head person is there, and that head person is termed as the chairman of that committee, and the other members not exceeding 20. So there is a group of 20 people who act as NDPS consultative committee with the heading, with the leadership of chairman, which is appointed among them. The committee shall advise the central government on the matters relating to the administration of this act. As we all know that administration, that is the controlling of these rules and regulations. So the committee which is responsible is the NDPS consultative committee, which is built temporary under the chairmanship of the government authority, and the team should be not exceeding than 20 people. They have the supervisions, or you can say they can advise the government on matters relating to administration of Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act, that the rules are being followed or not. The laws which are laid down are being implemented as per the law. If there is any deviation, then it has to be reported by these people only. So these are the responsibilities of NDPS Consultative Committee. Generating fund, National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse. If we talk about National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse, I have just told you the controlling of drug abuse was one of the main objectives of the central government. That if any person is suffering from the addiction, then how to give a rehabilitation center, or what are the criteria on which we can work to improve the health of the addicted person. So National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse is being generated and is used for the betterment of human kind who are suffering with this drug abuse. So let's see how the funds are being generated. If we see generating of funds, then the central government may, by notification in the official gazette, constitute a fund to be called the National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse. Here I have used one term, that is official gazette. What does it mean? Or let's have a brief over it. Official gazette is a notification that is issued from the side of government for entire country that this point has been declared, or we are using this as this. That is, it is a promissory note on which the law, the point to be followed, or we can say any kind of guidelines which has been authenticated by the government is written on that promissory note. And that promissory note is displayed to the entire public of the country so that they can go through it. They have information about that official gazette. So that is termed as official gazette. So when it comes to the fund, to collect the fund, then if the government is finding that this source is better for the control of drug abuse to collect the fund, then they have an official notification on that official gazette which is being displayed to the public, like that everything is that this amount is being used for the betterment of the people. Then it is published and people have to collect the funds like over it. An amount which the central government may, after due appropriation made by the parliament by law in this behalf, provide. So it is the amount which has been collected on the name of drug abuse, for the control of drug abuse, and only after the permission from the government, if central government finds it suitable under certain circumstances, then only releases that amount for the consumption over the addicted person. So it is not so easy to have the funds from the government. The government, or you can say that Narcotic Commissioner and the committee, the people sit over the concern, and if they find it is suitable, then only they will release the fund for the betterment of the drug addict. So National Fund for Control Abuse may, now let's see how the fund is generated. Generating of funds. The sale proceed of any property fortified under Chapter 5. Sale proceed, property fortified. These are the two new terms that you have to be clear about. Then only you can understand this. Sale proceed, that while we are talking about the operations that are related to narcotic drugs, while we are operating under those operations and the commissioner found that some point is missing, or the drug which has to be calculated in this much amount is found to be this much, that is, there is some differences between the theoretical and the practical value, then the whole cultivation, or you can say the crop, is termed as property fortified. That is, some or the other problem was found in this cultivation of the drug. The area, the cultivated plant, the extracted drug, these are the areas under which we can say the property is fortified. So in the amount of those property is used as generating of funds in under NCB. So that condition is used as drug abuse. The amount generated in such kind of property is termed as the amount used for drug abuse. Now let's go through the second point. Any grant that may be made by any person or institutions. If any person or institution would like to give it like a donation or grants, it can be used as National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse. And the third point from where the income can be generated is any income from investment of the amount credited to the fund under the aforesaid provisions. That if some person is directly want to pay for that, they can also use it. So these are the three ways through which the funds can be collected. Utilization of the fund. So we have seen first the organization who is authorized to collect the fund. Then we have seen the ways through which we can generate the fund. And now how we can utilize these funds. The funds shall be applied by the central government to meet the expenditure incurred in connection with the measures taken for. We have calculated the ransom amount, or you can say a good amount, for the betterment of the addicted people. Then it is the central government only, that is, we can, if we talk about the authority person or the main person who will be controlling is the Narcotic Commissioner or the NCB. It will decide whether we have to use that fund in that case or not. So it is the fund shall be applied by the central government to meet the expenditure incurred in the connection with the measures taken for, and the first one is combating illicit traffic in narcotic drugs, psychotropic substances or controlled substances, and the second one is controlling the abuse of narcotic drug and psychotropic substances. In these 2 points, we can utilize these funds to have a proper control of the narcotic drugs. Let's go through a few more points, that is identifying, treating, rehabilitating addicts, preventing drug abuse, educating public against drug abuse, and supplying drugs to addicts where such supply is a medical necessity. So here we have some more points where we can utilize these funds. So if we see the utilization, identifying, treating, rehabilitating addicts. So it is the decision of the Narcotic Bureau, or you can see the NCB, and the person that is authorized by the government who will decide whether the fund has to be utilized for this condition or not. The case has to be studied by the government, and then only the fund can be released over it. In preventing drug abuse, that we have to advertise, we have to educate the public that this kind of utilization is drug abuse and we should not do it. So the cost incurred under such kind of programs has to be used up by the public, has to be come under utilization of funds from NCB. And the last, if we see that the supplying of drugs to addicts where such supply is medical necessity, that are some people who have to be controlled from the rehabilitation by controlling, but there is a bit to reduce the dose by supplying the drugs has also to be controlled by the funds which are generated by NCB. So here are the utilization. Now fund controlling, we will see the जो collection हुआ है, utilize हुआ है, उसे authentically, officially the people who are controlling over it. So let's go through the last point. The central government may constitute a governing body as it thinks fit to advise that government and to sanction money out of the said fund subject to the limit notified by the central government in the official gazette. That we all are working over authentic conditions. So there is always a official notification for any kind of fund release, fund utilization and fund that is left over. So that comes under fund controlling. The central government may constitute a governing body as it thinks fit to advise the government and to sanction money. That is, the amount has to be sanctioned or not, the amount sanctioned is utilized or not. If it is utilized, then it is in proper terminology. If the amount is left over, then how much amount is left over. So all these properties, or you can say the official documentation, is done by the NCBs, or you can say the official person appointed for NCB under certain cases. The governing body shall consist of a chairman, not below the rank of an additional secretary. I have already told you that it is a temporary post, as and when required the person from the government organization is appointed as the narcotic commissioner. So it has to be the post of additional secretary to the central government, and such other members not exceeding 6 as the central government may appoint. That is the person who are controlling these funds. So one should be a chairman and a people of 6 should be there to control these funds. The governing body shall have the power to regulate its own procedure. They will set up their targets, they will set up their rules and regulations which has to be followed by them, and time to time, depending upon the case and the reports that are generating from nearby circumstances, has to be solved by this committee member, which is made up of 6 people and under head of the chairman, which is an additional secretary to the central government. Annual report of these activities financed under the fund. All these activities which are going on under NCB have to be reported, or you can say there is a legal report of funds that are being used. So let's see it in detail. The central government shall, as soon as may be after the end of each financial year, cause to be published in the official gazette. Another word we are again using it, official gazette, that any kind of official notification which are published under promissory notes are termed as official gazette, and the annual report has also to be published on those papers. A report giving an account of the activities financed under section 7A during the financial year, together with a statement of accounts. In the whole financial year, how many cases were dealt up, what were the cost, or you can say the amount collected by the NCB, and how the funds have been used. Actual reporting, or you can say the auditing, can be done over these documents. So this is the annual report of activities which has to be built up by those committee people in a particular financial year. So here is all about the funds that we are using, the things we are consuming, and the ways through which we can do it legally. The person, the authentic person who is responsible to control these regulations authentically. So it was the commissioner, narcotic commissioner, and for controlling the funds, there was a chairman and a group of 6 people who have to control it, controlling how we have to use, how much we have used, and what are the leftovers, and actual report of any kind of case we are dealing with. So here I end up my second lecture. Now I will be soon coming up with my third lecture dealing with NDPS. Thank you.